Pastor Sam Yoon's preaching, wow, it really offers a startling perspective on life and death. It's a topic we all think about, right? But the viewpoint we're going to dig into today, it challenges our most fundamental assumptions.
So let me ask you something. Just take a second and think about it. What is your greatest fear? Like, really, what's the one thing that brings up the most anxiety for you? The one thing you spend your life trying to steer clear of?
You know, for a whole lot of us, the answer is death. It just feels like the ultimate loss, doesn't it? The end of everything we care about, our relationships, our accomplishments, our very being. It's the final curtain.
But then you stumble across a line like this one from the Apostle Paul, and it just turns everything completely on its head. To die is gain. What? How in the world can the ultimate loss be considered a gain? That's the puzzle we are going to unpack right now.
All right, so let's get into it. To even begin to understand how death could be a gain, we've got to start with the first part of that sentence. To me, to live is Christ. What on earth does that actually mean?
While the sermon makes it super clear that this isn't about, adding church to your Sunday schedule. No, it's a total reorientation of your entire life. It's when Christ becomes the central operating principle, the very core that guides everything you think, everything you say, everything you do. For Paul, Christ wasn't just a part of his life. Christ was his life.
And this is where it gets really practical, because this huge idea isn't just some vague spiritual feeling. It has three concrete pillars. First, Christ was his reason for doing anything. Second, Christ was his power to get through anything. And third, Christ was the message he shared with everyone. It literally touched every single part of his being.
And this wasn't just some abstract idea, right? This quote right here nails that second pillar, power. Paul truly believed his ability to push through insane hardship. I mean, he was joyful in prison. It didn't come from his own grit. It came from an outside source of strength.
Okay, so now let's pivot to the second half of that mind-bending phrase. If your life is totally defined by Christ, how does that radically change your view of death? How does the ultimate loss flip into the ultimate gain?
And boom, this slide just lays it all out. The sermon really contrasts these two worldviews. On one side, you have the world saying death is losing everything you've worked for. But on the other, Paul's view is that death is gaining everything you've ever truly wanted. It is a complete 180-degree flip in what you value.
And this confidence wasn't based on some kind of wishful thinking. The source material points to three very specific beliefs. Paul saw death as a gain because 1, it meant perfect, unfiltered fellowship with Christ. 2, it was the final end to all pain, sin, and weakness. And 3, it was a doorway to his eternal reward.
Let's just park on that first point for a second. The metaphor here is so powerful. Death isn't some terrifying leap into a dark, empty void. It's a doorway. It's framed as simply going home. That simple shift turns death from this terrifying enemy into, well, a welcome passage.
And this quote here, it really drives home that third reason, the idea of reward. This is why the early Christians could face death with joy. Can you imagine? They believed they weren't being defeated, they were being promoted. They weren't losing their life, they were finally getting their ultimate prize.
So this brings up a huge question, right? If you're not afraid of death, if you actually see it as a good thing, a gain, how does that completely change how you live your life right now?
Well, Paul uses this incredible metaphor of life as a race. And from this point of view, the goal isn't just to stay on the track as long as possible. Nope. The goal is to finish the specific race you were given. The focus completely shifts from how long you live to how well you live your purpose.
And that, right there, is the heart of it. A long life lived without a mission is seen as less valuable than a short life lived faithfully. This just totally redefines what a good or successful life even looks like.
And this is the finish line. This is what it sounds like when someone knows they've completed their task. There's no fear, no regret, just this incredible sense of I did it. Job well done. That's the goal of the race.
So, let's pull all these threads together and see what kind of person this creates. The sermon calls this the mark of a mature Christian, someone who actually lives with this radical perspective on life and death.
This is the tension Paul was living in, what he called being torn between two. On one hand, he had this deep, genuine desire to go home, to be with Christ, which he said was better by far. But on the other hand, he knew his work on earth was still vital for other people. So, he wasn't desperately clinging to life, but he also wasn't trying to escape it either.
And what does all this lead to? The result is this incredible, profound sense of freedom. When you're no longer terrified of dying and you're not desperately attached to the stuff of this world, you are just free. Free to serve, free to love without holding back, and free to finish your own race with joy instead of crushing anxiety.
And that really leaves us with something to chew on, doesn't it? What would it actually mean to live without the fear of death? I mean, really think about it. What would change in your life, your choices, your relationships, your biggest goals, if that fear was just gone? What would you finally be free to do?